1340 96.5 KVGC on the phone with us, our good friend Douglas Viviani of Everything Old is New Again. Every Saturday, he and Michelle Cohen host a show called, you made that change, have you, already?
Well, for this week again, yes, but I don't know if it's going to be permanent.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway. He and David Cohen host a show called Everything Old is New Again. Heard tonight at 6 o'clock and again tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So how was it having a woman's view there on the Everything Old is New Again dice?
Well, it's nice, but it's like going to a party as opposed to playing like a ball game on a Saturday afternoon with your friends, with just guys. You got to just watch your P's and Q's a little bit, make sure that you don't say the wrong thing to offend,
So you can't burp out loud and do things like that.
Right, exactly. Although she rolls with the punches, she's pretty good with it.
All right.
It's a lot of fun. Anyway,
for
have
those...
you seen the coming attraction for the newest episode, the latest episode of Gotham coming up next week?
I watched it yesterday on DVR, and yes, with the Joker.
Yes, the Joker, who's been gone for, I'm going to say a year, maybe longer, or the pre-Joker, I guess you'd say, is back, and it looks like he's taken the facade of the Joker. And that actor, do you remember that character a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
So the question is, I don't know, this show, I keep talking about it. I know you watch it.
Oh, yeah.
There's no, scuttlebutt. You don't hear any buzz about this show. Is it lingering around? Is it a show that's a giant, sleeping giant, or is it a dud? I mean, what's up? Do you have any idea?
I like the show. You're right. I have heard nothing about it at all. There's no talk about it, and I don't understand why, because it's a great show. I think it's a great show. Well, I don't know. Maybe you and I think it's a great show because we like that genre of entertainment, superhero. And, I'm curious. I like the backstory of Batman because Batman's probably my favorite superhero of all. And so I really like when they show Bruce Wayne and how he becomes Batman and so forth. And, they kind of shortcut the part where he disappears because he disappears for years, not just in the show here where he went away for a couple of weeks or a month and, came back. But anyway,
Well, what's the fascination with Batman? Does it go back to the comic books? Does it go back to the 1966 TV show, what was I saying? The Tim Burton one in the 1980s, where do you think that's coming from?
Okay, I discovered Batman and Batman comic books at about the same time, because my brother, who's 8 years older than me, was an avid comic book reader and collector, and he had all these comic books that I stumbled on in my grandmother's basement one day, and there was a whole new world of entertainment. And about a year later, the Batman with Burt Ward and the late Adam West comes on, and so I'm like, wow, this is great. So I'm introduced to Batman at about the same time as that. So my Batman, how people say their doctor for Doctor Who is this. My Batman is unfortunately Adam West. I mean, that's, when I think of Batman, that's who I think of Batman. So.
But in addition to that, you had the comic book to bolster, because you knew on the television, Batman with Adam West was tongue-in-cheek and put a smile on your face. But if you wanted to get into the real Batman stories, you had them every month coming out, and I had them delivered to the house. Did you ever do that as a kid?
Really?
Yeah, the comic books would be delivered to the house.
You
have a subscription, and as a kid, I would tape the coins to the subscription form and mail it in, and they would actually accept it and start sending me 12 episodes, 12 comics every year. How about that? Did you do that? You didn't do that?
No, you're a little bit. You lived in a little high class neighborhood than I did. We didn't have...
Well, I had no access. My parents weren't getting me the comic books. Young kid, you can't get out and about. I'm in a rural, area, neighborhood that there's nothing I could drive my bicycle to quickly to get that stuff. So
I'm not trying to. Hey, I'm not going to try to one up you on this story, but when I was this age, I lived 15 miles away from any store or civilization.
So I'm surprised. How did your brother get these comics then? I mean, they weren't delivered. What was his source?
Well, he would get them at stores. You know, remember when they had them in grocery stores?
That's true. They had them in drugstores.
Yeah,
they had them everywhere.
Every grocery store and stores would have them. And
So
again,
you go with mom to shopping for
yeah,
groceries. And
yeah. So he
there's
would
your reward.
And then
well,
that's what I would
do.
do.
That's the kind of a show that I think deserves attention. And then you turn around and you've got other shows like This Voice and American Idol's back. And if you look at the ratings, American Idol got 7 million views. The Voice got 10 million. I mean, Batman 66, I know it's a different world, but Batman 66 in its heyday got about 50 million viewers, you know, because there were only 3 stations, of course. But, I mean, these shows like The Voice is supposed to be so popular. It's drawing in 3.5% of the population of the country to watch. That's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, Batman, at the time, the population of the country was bringing in like 25% of the entire country, you know, able to watch and watching this show. It's a different world.
The show that I do not understand, and I've tried to watch it, and I don't know if you've watched it or not, it's called Living Biblically. Have you seen that show?
I haven't. I've seen the coming attractions, and I just can't
tried to watch it a
bring
couple
myself
of
to it.
You know, I've tried to watch it a couple of times because it's produced by Johnny Gaelic, you know, who's on or not Gaelic.
Big Bang?
Yeah, Galecki from Big Bang, and Sarah Gilbert is on it and so forth. It just it don't got it. Don't got it.
And also it's another one I see the coming attraction. I think it's Living Separately or something, where people are getting divorced and they're living in the same house and making fun of it. To me, listen, what do I know? There are just some topics. I'm not interested in seeing people make fun of or get involved with religion every week, and you know, and that it looks like they're really making fun of this guy. I don't know. That's just not my thing. And making fun of or making light of the fact of a divorce and kids involved and all that. Maybe because I'm an attorney and I see this stuff on a daily basis and see the difficulties that, you know, we're not in a perfect world. Divorce happens, but to just kind of make light of it in that way where they're still going to live together and have kids and laugh about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should look at it in a nice way. I don't know.
Back to the singing show. What happened? I mean, American Idol died, and they put a stake in its heart and buried it, you know, wrapped its coffin in chains and dumped it in the ocean, and then all of a sudden it comes back again on a different network. Please, let it die.
After American Idol lost Simon Cowell, and let's back up, Simon Cowell was ostracized, and people would always argue and say he's too mean. All he did was tell the truth from his perspective of what he was feeling. All these other people, maybe they tell that. For the most part, though, there's no real opinions being presented or haven't been presented in quite a while on that show since he left. Real stuff that you talk about by the water cooler, as they used to say, right? So like, it's just so generic and so bland. Yeah, you're great. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. Well, how many singers do we need to see?
Have you watched? I watch these shows, and I think to myself, who in the hell told you could sing? Don't your friends? Doesn't your mom or your dad or somebody say to you, you know, honey, maybe you ought to take up something else. This singing is not for you.
But we say that, but the judges, for the most part, love everybody that's on the show. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right.
So what's the point? If everybody is so wonderful, then I'm now losing my, if I haven't already, lost my interest in it because, I mean, so I'm going to watch great singers sing against other great singers. That's fine. The fun was Simon telling them, listen, you can sing well, but you don't know how to choose a song, or your intonation was wrong, or it sounds like karaoke, etc., you know, and help them improve. I mean, all of our lives improve by failure and improve by constructive criticism. I mean, I don't know. That's just my point of view. What can I tell you?
Never fear. Never fear. Baseball is almost here.
Yeah. 1 week away, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, JD.
Do you go to opening day? No, it's too.
No. But JD, my son, was talking to that works with me here, was talking about it earlier in the week. He was going, Dad, you realize baseball season's only a week away? And I told him at that time, I said, I wish I could name more than just maybe 3 players on the Giants starting roster.
Isn't that the killer? Now, again, maybe we sound dated. I don't know, but I can remember, even in college, and thereafter, but certainly before. So the formative years of my life, I mean, up till like, let's say 30, you can name me one team, any team, and I could tell you 2 or 3 starting pitchers. I could tell you out of the 8 other starters, let's say, I could name you probably 5 or 6, because I don't know if it's better or worse, but the players stayed around on teams a lot longer. So you understood what the personality of the team was. You knew Jerry Grody was the catcher for the Yankees. I mean, for the Mets, I'm saying Thurman Munson was the catcher for the Yankees and so forth. And you knew these players, so you had a foundation. And, of course, it changed with trades and so forth. But before free agency, there wasn't all this moving around. They had a face, each team. You know, Willie Mays and McCovey were on the Giants, and you knew every year you were facing a problem there if you were the opposition, and you had a feel for who that team was. Now I agree with you. It's real hard to even remember one player or 2 on each team if you're lucky, right?
I mean, right off the top of my head, I'd go first base, Will Clark; second base, Brett Butler; shortstop, Jose Uribe; third base would be Matt Williams. We'll put Rick Russell, Big Daddy, on the mound. Have Kevin Mitchell in the outfield. I mean, there's boom, 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 boom. Okay.
Yeah, but you could also
now you ask me now.
Time frame or a little earlier, the Dodgers with Russell at shortstop and Ron Say at third,
sure.
and Davey Lopes at second, and Steve Garvey at first. I mean, that's just off the top of your head, you know.
Okay, let me ask you. Okay, so stop. Let me back, because I heard an interesting topic that maybe I'll tell you off the air, and it might be an interesting topic for you and David to talk about on the show someday. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is because you and I really don't care anymore because we have family, we have a mortgage, we have a job, we have a wife, we have a life that takes us away, and even though this is a hobby and we're still interested in it, we don't have 100% or even 50% of our brain to dedicate to this. So we hear the box scores, we hear the scores, we maybe listen to a game going, driving around or whatever, but we're not really into it like we used to because we just can't.
I think there's definitely an element. I used to sit down, I would say, man, out of 162 games, at least 100, and watch at least 7 innings of them. So if you're doing that, you're certainly exposed a lot more than I am now. I listen to radio a little bit in the car. I listen to the talk radio. And that's the other element. There's talk radio that would reinforce it and does reinforce it now. But I don't know. It's not the same. When you're sitting and immersed in it for 2 hours a night, watching and listening to your commentators and seeing the teams parade, the other teams come in for 3 games and move on, and you watch every single one. I think it is definitely an education. It's definitely a reinforcement, and I think you certainly, and as a kid you could do that. You certainly have more interest. There's no way in the world I could sit and watch anything for 2 hours these days in this house.
I would
I
rather.
think it's definitely an element, but. It's definitely still a little bit harder, though, when the players are changing so much. I don't know.
I would rather listen to a baseball game on the radio than watch a baseball game. And it's not because I'm a radio guy and people are going to think that. No, watching the game seems to take longer and drag on for me than if I'm listening to the game. And I don't know if it's because as I'm listening, I can do other tasks. But if I'm watching, I have to really just sit and watch the game. I don't know.
100%. I will every night for when I'm cooking dinner in the summer with the barbecue outside. The game is on. When I'm out by the pool, game is on.
Right.
When I'm out, gardening or whatever I might be doing, throwing the ball around with Leo, whatever it is, game is on. And it's a great background. You don't have to listen to every single second, but you can still catch up and see what's happening and do something else. I think it's a great background. I agree with you 100%. But did you watch as a kid, tons and tons of games all the time?
I listened to it mostly on the radio, to be honest with you.
As a kid, too?
Yeah, as a kid. Because, there was only, when I'm a kid, there's only a game on what? On a Saturday? I mean,
that's true.
On a Sunday, maybe? There's no games except the World Series. But,
You
folks...
didn't have, we had a local station that carried our team, so you had that at least all the time.
Here in our area, if we could get Channel 2, which was a Bay Area station, they were a Giants affiliate, so they would carry Giants games.
Gotcha.
But folks, I from the bottom of my heart, listen, don't get hooked on this television thing, okay?
Hey, I'll
Please.
tell you what I used to do all the time is the alternative also, or a supplement. We would run out, to get the newspaper every day that was delivered to the house and read not only the articles, but the box scores, and not just of our team, of every team.
Sure.
So again, it is, we
Sure.
did have a different interest in it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be I'd be interested to see what a 13-year-old now says about this, and if they have as much interest in, and if they do, how much knowledge about all the players on each team.
Hey, we're back during the news days. Were you a singer, or was David a singer?
David was the singer. I was the backup singer. Although I did sing, we did it like the Beatles. I was the let's say the George Harrison. Every
Okay.
East song I would sing as well.
Do you think we could get David maybe to try out for American Idol or one of these shows? And
I hate to say this, he would be fantastic, and he is a great songwriter. I can tell you that he's written so many great songs, but they have an age limit, don't they?
oh yeah, he's probably way too
I
old.
know he looks 25, but that's where I'll stop.
Hey, what's up for this week's show?
Well, we've been enjoying the presence of Michelle DeFranco, as she uses that name, but she's really Michelle Cohen, David Cohen's wife, and on the air, and she is going to join us one more time as we're going to kind of peel the onion and look back. And we've had 203 weeks of shows, which is basically 4 years of shows of Everything Old is New Again. And the biggest question I get, and the most common, is how do we come up with these great topics for our radio show, and how is it developed? So we're going to, on the air, have a round table, the three of us, talking about different topics and try to find a topic. And if we do find a topic, we'll develop the show right then and there before your eyes and write it, if you will, or at least hammer it out and see how a show takes shape. And hopefully it will be entertaining.
I think what you guys ought to do one day is you ought to have just a kind of a simple premise for the show, and no, I'm serious about this, and start drinking an hour before the show starts, and then continue to drink through the show and see how it ends.
Who says we don't do that now?
Douglas Viviani and David Cohen, my heroes! My heroes! Tonight at 6 o'clock, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Everything Old is New Again. Each week, examining our pop culture, where it came from, and why it's still popular. Always making radio fun. Douglas, thank you.
Thank you. Play ball.
There you go.